Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's school committee meeting. Mike Mazzoni, could you lead us to the pledge of
I'd be
allegiance?
honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We gotta turn that
Can we turn
volume
the-
down on that TV because it's messing with my head.
Can I do it from there?
We have the best seats in the house.
It doesn't take much, but that's doing it.
We got it, Mike.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a consent agenda, the minutes from October 26, 2017, and the oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
I intend to abstain.
Okay, because you weren't there. All right, hearing none. All those in favor who were actually at that meeting? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Two sections of the meeting for interested citizens, one at the beginning of the meeting, one at the end. Are there any interested citizens with business before the school committee? Seeing none. We'll jump right into recognition. We do not have Olivia with us, but I think she sent us her report.
She did, and we're going to do it in a series, I guess. I have a report from Olivia, but I think Cheryl's going to give some more information about the middle school. A couple of things that Olivia sent me. Shaker Lane held their annual Halloween parade, and that is so special. It's such a great hit in our community, and kids are so excited. Staff and parents are excited. This year, one of our new teachers, Miss Taylor, led the students in a sing-along after they paraded around the school. So, good time was had by all. The high school still has their senior Halloween parade as well. Did you take part in that when you were in high school?
I did, yeah.
The tradition continues.
Huh.
So they had a lot of fun as well. Last night, we were treated to an NHS induction ceremony, National Honor Society. 37 new inductees were indoctrinated last night, and desserts after. It was a great evening. We have two plays coming up. High school play during November 17th to 19th, Duran Duran. And the middle school play, musical Annie, December 1st to 3rd. And that's all that Olivia gave me, but I have a few things myself.
Well, can you guys get a point of clarification on the drama production? It's Duran Duran.
The Durang Durang?
Duran Duran is not coming to the high school.
I was gonna say, how are they making a play about that?
Is this a Canadian thing or what?
Just to
Duran
make
Duran.
sure that we're not
All right.
sending the community out.
I was gonna go, wow, what, they're gonna do a musical group?
My apologies for the pronunciation. It's gonna be one of these nights, I
Yep.
see. All right. I'll make sure I keep those Canadianisms away. Our fall sports season, we had another great year. 236 student athletes took part in our program. That's about 51%. Football, field hockey, girls cross country, all won league titles. Girls soccer, football, cheer, boys cross country, girls cross country, and field hockey all qualified for the MIAA tournament. And as we all know, football's playing this Saturday, sectional championship game at Doyle Field.
In Leominster, 2 p.m. They're one win away from going back to Gillette for the third time in 5 years.
That's excellent. And the girls cross country has a good chance of placing first at their sectional meet this Saturday as well. Our athletic director also put in a couple of sentences about how pleased and grateful he is that we have our new alumni field, and he really feels that it made a difference this year. As we all know, we had a lot of rain in the fall, and we would have had a lot of canceled games if it wouldn't have been for the alumni field to play on.
It also allowed the teams to practice on days that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to practice. There were days where we would have only expected one team to be practicing down there. We had like 3 teams that just moved down there because the fields, the natural grass fields were closed at the high school. The other thing to keep in mind is that there were multiple field hockey games, both during the day and at night, and there were multiple boys and girls night soccer games, twice as many as they would typically have played down there. And it's always great because they get a bigger crowd at night, more parents are able to get there, and more grandparents, and the students actually are, if they have an afternoon game, they can get back and go to the game. So it's been great, and it's been, much used even in a short period of time that we got it, we quickly grabbed it and ran with it. So it's been a great addition, a great asset to the community, all right.
That's great. We had a number of staff a couple of weeks ago attend the MassQ conference, and as I've said a number of times around this table, it's one of the conferences that, as a superintendent, I'm assured some of the things that they took a look at or were involved in will reach their classrooms and alter their teaching practice or enhance what they're doing in the classroom. So it's a great conference for our staff to move forward, and also our administrators. They see lots of new things that are happening, and you know, some schools that are piloting some really exciting technology. The virtual reality, artificial reality. I mean, it's just technology is moving at such a fast pace. With that, I'll turn it over to the principals in case we missed anything.
Can I stay here, or do I have to go to the microphone?
Stay there.
I can
You can stay
Okay,
there.
good. The middle school finished parent-teacher conferences. Each of our sessions was very well attended. During the conferences, a group of 8th grade boys completed a community service project. They collected over $500 in donations for the Scott Bolt Fund. Members of the Littleton Fire Department came to the school last Friday to pick up the donations and to congratulate the students: Aiden Parker, Jacob Lane, Patrick Berry, Paul Hine, and Jack Dennehy. LMS had a Halloween dance for grades 7 and 8 on October 27th. Over 150 students were in attendance. 8th graders visited LHS for a tour and a question and answer session on November 1st. 8th grader Peter Holland has been selected to be this year's 8th grade student ambassador for Project 351. And today, Littleton Middle School had its annual Veterans Day luncheon. Once again, 8th grade history teacher Mrs. Beth Morgan, along with Mr. Dubai and Mrs. Ogden, did an outstanding job planning and implementing a wonderful celebration in honor of over 20 of our local veterans. Mrs. Bridge, the band, Mr. Bergman, and the chorus also did an outstanding job. And our staff members this year did a fantastic job providing a very delicious potluck luncheon for all of the guests. So special thanks out to everyone for that. And that's it.
Anything else?
That's it. That's a lot.
No, I was referring to the other principals. Sorry, Mrs. Temple. One other thing, just a reminder to everybody, that our Thanksgiving football game is around the corner, and every year Rotary puts on a Thanksgiving breakfast. So we have some posters up, tickets are ready to go, and looking forward to seeing all of you out for
It
that
is a
morning.
home game this
It
year for the
is.
football team at Alumni on Thanksgiving morning, so you can go right from the cafeteria, across the parking lot on our brand-new crosswalks, into the stadium.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Great. And then Rob, how are you?
We're well. How are you?
We're moving briskly. We had an opportunity for interested citizens. I'll offer it again, because there were no interested citizens here. Do you have anything you want to speak to before the school committee?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. Just check.
Just hiding behind the podium.
All right, and then, Kelly, you were down at the Cape last week?
I was with the, for the joint Massachusetts Superintendents and MASC conference. Title of the conference this year was Mapping the Path for Student Success, College, Career, and Life. And I was kind of a superintendent up for adoption because I didn't have any school committee members down there. Met a lot of new people, always do anyway. And that wasn't a cheap shot, just trying to be funny. I know you're all busy, and it's really hard to get down to those conferences. Again, another great conference. They always have good speakers, good topics. A few that captured my attention. Strong communities, strong public schools. That was a great session. Globally inclusive schools. The importance of civility, I should say, in an uncivil age, which was interesting. When I look back 20 years ago, I probably would have never thought I would have attended a conference with that title. But it was really, really interesting and worthwhile. Let's see, supporting student social and emotional learning is always a strong topic, and Massachusetts in general, including our school district, continues to make great strides in that area. Educating for the future, we continue to have conversations in that area. Addressing the opioid crisis was also a presentation that certainly was valuable, and stimulated some thought in terms of prevention, et cetera. And I'm very proud of our town for having a joint effort with all departments, the school department, police department, fire department, and doing what we can to educate not only the children of our community, but adults, and making sure we do whatever we can to help prevent addiction from happening. And the last one, and I've said this a few times, there's a real push in the state of Massachusetts to offer computing science in all of our high schools. We had started that a couple of years ago with code.org, and the way we were handling it, we were fortunate enough to always have a math teacher on staff that was gifted in computing science, but that's not always the case, and as people leave, it's very hard to replace people that come in with two specialty areas. So, as Dr. Harrington has pointed out earlier in the year, we scrambled a bit to take care of that void, and the high school did an excellent job in terms of creating options for students, and I have to emphasize opportunities that students would not have otherwise had. So I really commend the high school on the fine job that they did. As we engage in budget discussions for FY19, that will be something that will be part of our discussion in terms of trying to move into hiring somebody for computing science, and perhaps having a dual role of a computing science teacher and somebody responsible for internship programs as well, because that's an area we want to continue to move forward in. So if you, again, next year have an opportunity to free up a day to go down to this conference, I think you would really enjoy it. It's always nice meeting other school committee members as well, sharing your stories.
I appreciate
Thank
you going
you.
down there and coming back with that information. All right, we have a couple presentations tonight. The first one is on AP testing at the high school.
Well, good evening. Happy to be with you tonight to present our annual AP results. This year, we had certainly another year of strong and solid performance by the students at the high school. I want to thank the students for all their effort throughout the year to prepare for these tests, as well as the hard work of our teachers to prepare them so that they do perform well. I start out this presentation with sort of a similar format as we've used in past years. Just a current listing of the AP courses at LHS. AP Stats is not in that list. I just noticed that as I was coming up. AP Euro is not offered this year. These are courses that were offered last year. But AP Stats was also offered. We're in the process in the social studies or social science history department, as they like to be called, looking at what our options would be next year with the AP program, whether to offer to go back to AP Euro, which is one of the options the department is discussing, or to have some type of enriching elective that wouldn't be so test-based and so focused on memorization as the AP Euro curriculum is. There is this tension. I've talked about this for a long time in presentations to the committee. I remember talking about this back when we were at the high school in the library seminar room. There's this tension that's discussed in the education field and among parent groups about the rigor and college admissions benefit of AP courses versus some of the limitations around the excessive emphasis on test preparation, the amount of time spent on that, and just the amount of stress that students experience sometimes with overloading on AP courses. And some communities have limited the number of courses that students can enroll or take in each year. It's been the philosophy of the school committee, I think, and of the administration to sort of leave that on a case-by-case basis, leave it up to the discretion of the guidance department working with parents and administration. And we've been able to manage that in Littleton. That's, as far as we can tell, we know when to advise a student to not take too many courses, and we have other students that are so exceptional that we should let them run free, push the limits because they can. We even have students who, in the past, as I pointed out, who have taken AP courses, studied for AP tests on their own. We didn't offer the course. They picked up the materials. They prepped for the course, and they did outstanding. Many of them 4s and 5s, which are top scores. And you can just see that motivation here. These are the subjects where students took AP exams in 2017 and last May, but you'll see a number of those offerings at the German language and culture and macroeconomics. We don't offer those at the high school. These are courses that students either sought out study through online opportunities, through like virtual high school, or they worked on their own, and they got the materials and prepared for it. So credit to them. We have a large participation in the AP program. I'll go to the next slide. This table, and I've done this chronology over the years so you could see the growth of the program. We're pretty consistent. The number of AP exams taken was slightly down from the last cohort. Last year's, the 2016 cohort, had less students but more exams, so those students really loaded up. And and we look at some of the, it did benefit a lot of those students certainly when we look at their college admissions where they went to school. But certainly if we look at 2017, we had a number of students going off to premier selective colleges as well. The number and percentage of exams at each AP score level, you can see that there. And you'll see that there's a little blurb on the bottom we'll have to acknowledge. We do look at things that didn't go so well. And so you'll see that we had compared to like 2013 where we had 7 ones, we had 11 last year. And we know exactly where they are. We're not going to talk about that too much in terms of the specific course because I don't want to, we have to be careful when the sample size is so small to not identify students. We know who they are, we know the situation that occurred there in that particular course, and we're taking steps to address that for sure. But at the same time, it's not, that's going to happen. You're going to have years like that, especially as the participation, the number of exams have gone up over the years, and the number of exams that students take, and the number of students taking exams. Both those things have gone up over the years. You can see though that we've solidly 88% scored a 3 or better, which is the benchmark where we seek at certainly we want to be at that threshold. But there's 13% or so that certainly 12 that didn't get that three mark. So this is a close-up of the slide, just focused on last year. You can see that. And you've had a chance to examine this in your packet, so I won't read the percentages to you. The number of percentage of students with scores of 3 or more, or 3 or higher, you can see that there. Over the years, you can see that we remain consistent, given our small sample size each year. Now, the AP scholars, we do recognize these students each year in the newspaper. These are students who have graduated previous June. We sent out a press release in the fall, the early fall, I think in September, to recognize these students for their outstanding work. And once again, Littleton High School had a number of total AP scholars. You can see 33. And that's where we're back in 2010, one of my first years here, we had 12. So we're proud of the students' performance, but again, that comes with the pressure and the stress of AP. So and this is something that the College Board has incentivized students to take a large number of AP tests, or as many as they would want to. And there's this balancing act that goes on, but AP Scholar designation, just to go back to the criteria there, is just the baseline one. It's granted to students who receive grades of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. But this could be also across, I believe this is also across their junior and senior year. So we ask students to balance that out between junior and senior year, not overload the junior year too much, save something for senior year in the same time. So you see that there. At this point in time, it's 12 AP courses, unless Dr. Hogan sometimes decides to offer some independent study with the student, as he sometimes has done, and he's coaching a student on the side, and then we consider that one of our courses. We have had students, small groups, like take AP French with Mrs. Allison in the past, and that sometimes can bump up our number slightly. Students who are, say, in French 4 and then want to study for the exam, and she tailors something to them, but we don't necessarily have it in our program of studies as a standalone course. Some of our teachers are working with kids individually to prepare them for exams. And this is just a summary of the performance there. You see it there. AP Art History has not been offered the last couple of years, just due to a teaching preference and some accommodation for the teacher too, with the maternity leave. But we are looking at potentially reviving that course. I was talking to 2 parents who are here tonight just about that last night. And we'll see what we do there, if we're going to offer that again. We are definitely committed to the development of a computer science program at the high school. I'm not sure if we'll be at the AP level next year, but we would like to propose that. It's really dependent upon the instructor, and we certainly feel that the curriculum would need significant revision or review by a qualified instructor to prepare students for the challenge. It's a challenging test. From what I understand, there's different types of tests kids can take. AP Computer Science Java or A or something, and then AP Computer Science Principles. There's 2 different pathways for students. So our overall review within the program of studies is underway in each department, and we'll see what we'll be looking to offer next year or perhaps discontinue. We have had years where we've put courses like, we'll have it sort of lie dormant for a year and then revive it. Like, for example, AP Art History has been a course like that. AP European History has been like that. So that's something to look ahead to. And then this is the final slide that I've shown in the past, this graph from the College Board that just shows where we perform relative to the state and globally with AP results. And you can see Littleton is performing, exceptionally well compared to the state and across the world with AP performance. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Interested to hear any thoughts. Doesn't have to be tonight necessarily, but just your thoughts about whether we should be looking at any restrictions around AP in terms of limitations. Sometimes that does come from school committee. Often it comes from parents concerned about stress. But as I've said, there's no call for it right now among the parent groups. No one's calling me up to say we should be restricting access. We kind of manage it on a case-by-case basis, and it's worked well. But I'm always interested in hearing what the school committee might have to say to advise us on that.
And we were, recognized as an AP honor roll school as well.
Oh, that's right.
Which is quite a privilege.
Yeah.
And,
That's right. How did I overlook that? That's right.
That's what I'm here for.
That's the third
Help
time, I think, with Kelly, I think that's our third time
Our third
together
time.
with that. Yeah, so in the last 8 years, we've been recognized as an AP honor roll school. And they don't do that necessarily every year.
Right.
There's a certain criteria. I'm not up on the specifics of it, but we
There's a
have
cap as well. If you
Yeah. Cap
receive
as
it
well.
2 times, then there's a delay until you're eligible to receive it again.
You'll see the posters around the high school. We do put the posters up to recognize the students, and we do a press release about that. But I forgot it was from last spring, I think so.
Like to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to first just say that, well, I guess I'll go with the thing you brought up at the end. So I think it's a good problem that we have all like this. I feel like it's a good problem to tell students, if we have more students wanting to take AP courses than ought to be taking AP courses. I feel like that's a
We
good
worry
problem to
about
have,
them
that they're
sometimes taking-
ambitious enough
Yeah.
to want to do that. I don't see it as a big problem right now because I understand that you and the rest of your team do that on sort of a case-by-case basis. You help to, analyze what each student's workload is right now. I just want to say, I appreciate your honesty with like the blip and, some of these scores. It's important for us to see that and to know that you guys know, you've analyzed it and have, a plan for addressing it. A quick question I had though about this. I couldn't look at it until now because at least with mine, it wasn't color-coded.
Yeah, mine's not color-coded.
This slide. Not that I don't put a tremendous amount of emphasis on the testing anyway, but just because I'm curious. The drop from 94 to 88, I assume that probably has a lot to do with the one course that you identified that.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Right.
Yeah, there were, in that one course, there were 8, as I recall off the top of my head, 8 ones.
Yeah. All right. Otherwise.
It was a course issue, instructional issue, course issue that's been dealt with.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, I think it's very impressive that we have students, like I said, that are interested in taking this many AP courses and are able to succeed in them.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, we're proud of the students' performance. There's always going to be something, area of growth, area for improvement. We look for those areas. But I'm proud of the staff and the commitment to the program. In fact, we do have some, we've had students who, I want to talk we recognized an outstanding teacher last year, Cheryl Harrington. She teaches AP Psych and AP Bio. We recognized her, I think it was last June, for excellence in teaching at Littleton High School. She always has more demand than she can meet. For students, she could run 2 sections of AP Bio probably, but there's only so much as Cheryl to teach in the day, and she could run 2 sections of AP Psych. Those are 2 really popular courses, and as we look at our program of studies, we try to meet the requests and demands of the students and the parents, what they're looking for. We're here to serve, so we need to think about, how we build capacity within the high school to meet those requests and those needs. But at the same time, it does come, as the superintendent even pointed out, I heard him earlier saying, comes at balancing. It's got to be offset somewhere else in our program of studies, because it just can't become from addition. It's got to sometimes mean we don't run this. We make a decision deliberately not to do this. But a lot of our courses are geared, particularly at the high level, AP courses are geared around the instructor's interest area and expertise. And we do have an outstanding expert there, and as we do in other courses. But sometimes we lose an instructor. This instructor leaves, and then we can't necessarily make up for that, so that course might go dormant for a year or 2. So there's always that balancing act.
Any comments?
I would only say that I agree and concur with Mike. I think that just you really do have to take it on a case-by-case basis with each kid. There are going to always be those kids who can handle 3 or more AP classes. I think it's just important to have a talk with kids and so that they know what the clear expectations are of every AP course, what the demand is before they get in. I think that the families need to understand, and this is a conversation that families should have when they're looking at taking courses in high school, whether their AP level, what their expectations, what the commitment is for
Right.
those. So, but I think it's pretty impressive. I mean, just looking at this slide in particular, how well Littleton's matches up against not only the state, but globally.
And that's a similar stat you'll see, in fairness, across central Massachusetts and high-performing suburban high schools. That they'll be right there in the high 80s to even some cases mid to high 90s, performances of 3 or better. And we've been there, you pointed out the 94%. We know why we're not there this year. We know the issues, we know what happened. Some kids, didn't perform well on that test on that day for one reason or another. Most of the cases, though, we know exactly why. Yeah.
Daryl?
No, I think it's great, and actually, I'm going to differ just a little bit. I'd like to maybe ask for a little bit of background work to be done. So, one of the things that might, I see it with my own children is, getting ready for college, and there's a trade-off of how many classes the college actually accepts and grants credit for versus which classes they actually waive on it. And it varies by school and program.
Yes.
There. And then there's obviously the cost of the testing and the other pieces there. And there's an admissions benefit that you talked about, and then there's an actual course benefit that comes with it. I'd like for maybe to encourage you to talk to some admission officers at the schools to make sure that we understand that balance of things there so that the parents can be properly informed, because you don't often know that part until your kid is enrolled and then they find that they only accept half of the AP credits because there's too many of them, right? and then relative to the admissions officers, at which point does it not make a difference? And I don't think parents have that information, and that can be very useful for helping the students to understand that there is a balance there relative to just a test factory. I don't want us to be a test factory there, and there's a financial motive for AP testing from the people that run AP
Multi-billion-dollar
pieces here, that we make sure that we're providing a rich enough balance of information to the students and the families so that they can make those trade-offs. Because I think it does matter on which schools they're applying to. It may not affect other schools, and then it also couples into the choice of the dual enrollment there, because depending again which college they go into, the community college credits may or may not affect as much as perhaps an AP test. And I think making sure our guidance staff can provide the rich balance of that information is important.
I like what you said.
Good point.
I think there's about probably a top 10 list of questions that are most commonly asked with the AP program as it relates to college. You know, we do weight the AP courses higher, and our students and parents know that, quality points, and it helps your GPA as well, which helps tremendously.
If you do well.
If you do well. And it helps with your, and it helps with your admission to have that AP course on your transcript, which is weighed heavily in admissions. But these are things we do have these college reps, as you know from some of our notices going out in every week. And we have strong connections to local colleges in their admissions departments. Many, our guidance counselors know many of them on a first date basis and have known them for years. So we'll reach out to the colleges and get that information. I'm also intrigued by your question about the dual enrollment program, how we can balance this with, also, we want to encourage dual enrollment, but, you know, there's some trepidation, you know, among certain students not understanding it, but certainly staff too, of learning about it and understanding what it means.
So, and the reason I bring that up is some of the, as some go into some of the various STEM programs there, while you may have taken AP Physics 1 and 2, they'll still require you to take the core physics course
Yeah,
because
that's
it's so critical, you know.
I think
So-
that happened to, I was just talking to a student at UMass Lowell. He was in the engineering program, one of our finest students. He I think he was outstanding in AP calculus. Did great. I think I think it was at UMass Lowell, it could have been WPI too, where they will
It's
require you to take their calculus.
Yeah, a lot of colleges won't waive their core, if that's what you're
Right.
majoring in, they won't waive that core
But
program.
we know
Right.
our
And
students
I
are
think
better
they
prepared
become
though, as a
very
result.
we- They become very well prepared for those courses, but they shouldn't have the expectation that they're going to be waived.
Right.
And
We
I
do
think
tell them
making
that.
sure that they understand that richness is important.
Yeah, our guidance counselors are outstanding about informing them of, hey, you can take this, but it might not, you know, the college, it's up to the college to decide whether or not to honor it. Years ago, part of the marketing campaign from College Board was, hey, take AP courses and you'll save yourself a semester, and it will reduce the cost of college. And so we need to be clear. And I think it would be good to almost have some AP, we could produce at the high school, it would be a nice part of our guidance handbook, and AP guidelines with the top 10, 20 questions, issues, to just answer them, because they're asked all the time, rather than having to recall them or, you know, search to retrieve. What was the answer to that? We'll have it all written out. And that would be a nice addition, so I appreciate your
And,
comments.
you know, and I'm not saying it's in lieu of, it's just to make sure expectations are understood, because, you know, my children that picked the AP Physics and stuff were exceptionally well prepared for the, you know, the college level physics in the STEM program.
That's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a very important point as well. It's not all about gaining course credit. And if they're prepared and they find those core subjects easier because they are prepared, that's what we want as well.
Right.
I think both programs have great merit
Yep.
in high schools, both dual enrollment and AP. It's interesting, I'm just trying to jog my memory here. I think the AP program began in 1955 or 56. That's a long time ago, and we keep talking about schools of the future.
Mm.
And I'm not saying AP doesn't have a solid ground still in our high schools, but that's a long time for a program to exist without some type of reassessment as
And
well.
when you're comparing dual enrollment versus AP courses, like you were saying at the beginning, it's so heavily,
That's
well,
correct.
first of all, there's this whole commercial aspect behind it, driving people to it, but this whole testing aspect, whereas dual enrollment, the students are getting the increased rigor, and they're actually getting a taste of what it can feel like to be in college, but then they're also getting those credits regardless of, you know, what the test ends up
Certainly,
coming
a
out to
state
be.
college is going to accept them.
But it's the same way with that, you know, they're, like AP and dual enrollment, it's always a case by, you have to go to each school and get a sense for what.
And, you know, just to continue my random thoughts here, you know, things like dual enrollment for some of the computer science courses, if we can get additional computer science courses, can provide a much richer introduction to programming than just a test-based curriculum.
Exactly.
And a broader introduction.
And a broader
because
introduction.
Saying computer science is such a broad concept.
Right.
There is no one course that would ever prepare a student
Right.
in any significant way for being a computer
You know,
science
so
major. It
and
has
then-
to be a smorgasbord.
Right, and then even if they went to a university that didn't accept the dual enrollment credits there, the foundations that, by having much more broader experience with it, personally, I think would be a better benefit to them. And those are the types of things I want us to be very cognizant of as we're making these recommendations to our students.
I like
as
what
they
you
move
said about
forward.
the the dual enrollment piece, because one of the things that comes to mind, there was a tension even last year with last year's instructor with AP Computer Science that he was experiencing, and he made some adjustments to try to prepare kids for the test. But he was looking at, I remember him talking about how he would love to be more hands-on and have the kids do more inquiry-based work that required maybe spend longer on a particular unit in terms of depth of quality. It does impact instructional practice. The strategies you would use, the amount of time you'd spend on something. There's this race through the calendar because the AP program, although the school year goes to June, the test is in early May. Some of these exams are in the first week of May. So there is this compressed period of time and pressure that teachers feel to race, and many of our AP teachers dislike it. In fact, we wanted to launch AP Latin, but Mrs. Kelly really felt strongly that she didn't want to be beholden to the test, and so she launched Latin 5. And you know Mrs. Kelly, so she wanted to give kids the experience that she felt that her expertise and her content would provide to kids in preparation for whatever they're going on to.
And then I think, again, a frank discussion with some of the admissions officers is, would they rather see one AP test in computer science or several dual enrollment computer science classes as a stronger applicant for it? Because they're not likely to waive any of the programming requirements if they're going into computer science.
Yeah. Right. Good. Thank you.
I just,
Yeah. Yep, I think it's
Some
good.
feedback.
It'll help us.
You have a comment?
Well, just I really appreciate Darrell's comment about the dual enrollment component. When you go into a field like computing science, it's really nice to have somebody that has experience in the profession or in the field, and that would certainly add something as we continue to look for partnerships with our district. So.
Jen, do you have any comments?
I was just going to ask a question about some of the data here. Is there any breakdown between, how many juniors and seniors took the courses?
Yes, we have that data, just not in the
Yeah,
presentation.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
We
I'd
can
be
make,
interested in seeing.
we can
that.
actually do that as part of, in response to what Darrell had requested. Little flashback there. So there, Darrell. I think it would be, we'll put that, the breakdown of junior participation, junior enrollment. I don't know if we'll necessarily identify the results that way.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be some teasing out. But I think certainly showing enrollment based on the year. We do have sophomores also taking courses. The AP World History course was expanded. That's the course that the College Board does not recommend that sophomores necessarily take. Certainly multiple APs, they caution around that, but they do, there's certain courses they'll identify as maybe more accessible, and one of the courses that they have identified is AP Euro. So we had a number of sophomores take that.
Good. I have a couple comments. One is, I appreciate that we certainly should be aiding families as they contemplate how to navigate the college admission process. However, that is such a wide pool of schools, there's no way we're going to be able to quantify in any meaningful way exactly what AP does and doesn't mean. I mean, it means one thing at a certain coterie of schools, then it would mean something entirely different at the next one. So educating them in general terms, like, be careful, it's not a panacea, this isn't the way to grease the skids to get your kid into the best possible, I think that's important, but I wouldn't want us to expend too much time worrying about what it does and doesn't mean, partly because I don't think we could do a very good job of really encompassing that, because I don't think anybody could, but also because the families themselves will make their own determinations, right or wrong or indifferent, about how they want to approach that process. And when we talk about the case-by-case basis, I wouldn't be comfortable as a school committee member putting a limit on any student about how they should navigate, secondary education and all the things that we do offer, AP, dual enrollment, and their own enrichment that they're doing beyond, what we offer as a school district. That's up to them. What I would really want to make sure is that we know that the rigor of the AP classes is the right thing to do for our students in terms of preparing them for study. And Kelly hit on it. You may not get the credit, but you're going to do well or better than by virtue of having that. But that might be just as true if we got rid of a certain AP class and did Latin 5. We might find that the kids who take Latin AP in another school are not quite as well prepared because our Latin 5 curriculum and
It's
the
a
way we
college course.
deliver it is much more meaningful.
Right.
You just don't know, but that should be our goal, is to identify what gives our students the best opportunity to succeed, not to get admitted to college. They'll do that on their own. We will help them with that, but that's not our goal, is to get them admitted to a college or a particular college. Our goal is to make sure they're prepared when they do get to any college, or frankly, beyond college.
I think Darryl was just making sure that.
Yeah, no,
we're
I
doing
get
due
it, I get it,
diligence.
and I'm not.
No, I
I'm
didn't
not-
say anything about limits.
Right,
I want to make
right.
sure that the people.
I'm trying to tie it all together, is like,
Yeah.
we want to be cognizant of all that, but
Yeah.
my greater concern is that we, and Kelly said it, this program's been around since 1955, is there something better?
Right.
Should we, for whatever reason, make sure, I don't want to say de-emphasize the AP curriculum, but make sure that we're not providing it at the expense of better opportunities?
Right.
Where's the balance point? And as long as you guys are striving towards that,
Yeah.
and you feel like this is, what we're doing is right, along with all the other things we do,
Mhm.
then I'm good to go. And I'll let the families decide how they want to figure out how to take advantage of all the things we do for them as they strive to get,
Yeah,
admitted.
just from my perspective there is, it's very complex to navigate
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And not
We gotta help
everybody is
Correct.
equipped to
We have
navigate
to
that.
help
And we
them,
gotta
right.
make sure that advice, when
Yeah.
people ask us.
Right.
uh,
Absolutely, I agree
that we're-
100%. There
we're-
needs to be some
Balance.
good guidelines, and also, like you said, the guidance department, they know the students. So if they see the student going down, or the family going down the wrong road, and just setting them up for disappointment or failure, and without having told them, well, you can do that, and I'm not gonna tell you not to do it, but you might wanna think about this avenue as well, then that's our job, but ultimately, they'll decide how they're gonna get there. And we just wanna make sure that we haven't shortchanged them out of the opportunity, whether they can take advantage of it. Kid takes an AP class, he's not ready, he doesn't do that well, then it's all moot to that point, But, again, he may be better off in the long run when he gets to whatever school and say, well, even though I flunked it, the process was still meaningful to me, the benefit is not as direct as I thought it was going to be in terms of getting admitted, but it's still beneficial.
Yeah.
And even the struggle might be as beneficial as the
There are those
actual mastery or of the curriculum.
Yes, there are those cases, for sure. And some of those are reflected in the results. Even some of the students who got twos, it was a surprising two, because based on their grade in the course or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Whatever,
Right.
certain
The
question,
discipline, right,
or whatever,
exactly.
but they were outstanding students. They just, whatever, they got
Or
a
it could be
two.
the other way around, it could be a surprising too, like, I didn't even think you were gonna get that. Good for you. I mean,
Yeah,
it's true, it
yeah.
can happen, it's
We-
like
we
he surprised
do.
himself. And
Yeah.
by going through the process, that person is a stronger student in general terms, and they'll be fine going forward.
Sure.
That's why I don't think we should I'm not saying AP is bad, that's not the point I'm
I
trying
think
to
we
make.
we actually have a lot of AP courses for a small high school.
Right.
And that, people are kind of sometimes astounded, like, what's your enrollment? And it's 470, and you have all these AP courses, but at the same, so as we look, sometimes as people want advocate for other courses, but we have to think about how we might offset it with other, I think you pointed it out very well, sometimes there's a course we might want to offer in place of that is college level.
Right.
And in fact, we've had that in the past with when we had Mrs. Allison, who has a PhD in French literature, offer a very advanced French course. And we have, of course, I pointed out Mrs. Kelly's Latin 5, which, is better, exceeds often the demands of what a student would take in Latin in college.
And we know that the admissions officers of the colleges are evaluating Littleton's curriculum. They're probably very happy that we have AP, but if all we have is AP and the rest of it was subpar, it really wouldn't help. It's the
Right.
overall curriculum,
Exactly.
which I know we offer a very good one, and our kids, that's why you talked about at the beginning of the presentation, are getting admitted to select universities. We don't have a problem getting kids accepted to select universities. The curriculum supports them. As long as they're ready to take advantage of it, they'll do fine. So, I appreciate that. All right, thank you. All right, next is the update on our November 7th full-day professional development day. What was that, Tuesday?
Yes,
So what?
2 days ago.
2 days, happened 2 days ago.
Hello. I'm pleased to give you an update of what happened only 2 days ago. But began planning over 6 months ago. We offer different pathways this year for different groups of teachers. And what we offered on site here at Littleton High School was a program for the pre-K to 8 faculty. We had talked about in the one-to-one Chromebook presentation last week that we had a cross-district tech PD day for Littleton High School staff, grades 9 to 12 staff, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But knowing that the majority or all of the high school staff would be in content-based tech trainings, we wanted to have something compelling and interesting for the pre-K to 8 staff here. And we are moving increasingly to take a look at the intersection between state licensure requirements and general themes and initiatives offered in our professional development. So we thought this year we wanted to take a look at a series of presentations that fulfilled the DESE requirements for training and strategies for effective schooling for students with disability and instruction of students with diverse learning styles. So we contracted with Teachers 21 to take a look at a series of presentations and workshops, trainings on inclusion and co-teaching. And both presenters, Jeff Benson and Jerry Goldberg, are well known to our district, have presented before in the district, and we provided a description of the sessions. Each presenter talked about different models of co-teaching. We wanted, beyond the individual licensure requirements, meeting individual licensure requirements, we wanted our staff to come together, regular ed and special ed, to take a look at current practices and to see the different models for co-teaching within regular education and special education. Littleton is not a district where regular ed and special ed are separate silos, but best practices involve different models. The presentations differed a little. One emphasized the instructional planning and curricular differentiation, and the other talked about student engagement, technology aids, and student behavior. Now, and all of the faculty members were required to attend either session A or session B, to choose one of the co-teaching and inclusion sessions. Then they had a choice on the managing and changing difficult classroom behavior or the math session on teaching math at the primary school level. We had number sense games for pre-K to 2 and teaching fractions for grades 3 to 5. I will say that the professional development day on site was a success, largely because of the assistance offered by Cheryl Temple, the principal of the middle school, and Jason Everhart, the assistant principal of the middle school. Because on November 6th, the day before November 7th, I got a phone call from the consulting agency that Polly Bath was extremely ill, bedridden, had no voice, and could not travel to Littleton to present. Luckily, we were fortuitous in 2 ways. This was a presenter that had hundreds and hundreds of movies and video clips on YouTube, tremendous repertoire of resources, but who was to present? So Cheryl and Jason went on YouTube, clicked most popular, and took a look at the 20 most, and these are viewed by thousands of people, and she's a nationally known expert. But Cheryl and Jason facilitated the sessions. They chose the series of videos to present to the participants who signed up for that session, and facilitated in a way that it showed the video, had small group discussion, and then came together in large group discussion, and got rave reviews. I mean, Polybeth essentially was there in the district. So, you know, again, we thank them in person. Staff were raving about the presentation, and it went very well.
And Dr. Jamie, we also have to give you some credit because that was a big void in our PD day, and I have to tell you that when Jerry Lynn came to see me, she was calm and reasoned.
It was
And
after I
we had
talked.
about 3 plans in place in 15 minutes.
And I
so-
said, you know, we can switch
Great.
off, you know, well, I'll do one session, you do one, and she's, no, Jason and I will go. And I was very appreciative because I was able to attend both of the inclusion sessions. And now in the curriculum councils, in the department-based meetings, we can reinforce the different models for co-teaching and how they're, you know, each presenter talked about them with respect to either student behavior, student engagement, technology, or differentiation as such. So that was the pre-K to 8 session. And then we continue to the next. Okay, this is the this is the front poster for the cross-district professional development day. We began talking to you about this last week. The idea germinated about last January when Dr. Clinchy approached the superintendents of Harvard Public Schools and Air Shirley. And so we started meeting together on what would be a cross-district professional development day. And as we said on October 26th, all 3 districts were launching one-to-one initiatives. And we really want these laptops, Chromebooks to be more than expensive pencils. And what would be, the emphasis here would not be on the device, but the emphasis would be that this was content-based professional development. And there was a sharing of ideas in terms of each district selecting what content area they would focus on and research in terms of consultants. Our technology coordinators selected math, and they selected the consultants for the math-based PD. I will say to you that the ed tech teacher trainers were stellar. We had the world language trainer 2 years ago as our keynote speaker for our tech day, and we had very, very solid reviews from the high school staff thus far in English language arts, history, social science, science, math, world language. So those are the academic subject areas 9 to 12. That then leaves, keep on going, keep throughout to end. Okay, the 3rd annual, that leaves a fairly large group of teachers. And it's called low incidence, but you know, they're not a lot in the district, but when you add them up, it was a total of 18 staff members. And this is our 3rd year. I belong to a regional curriculum network, and NPEN is the Northeast Professional Educators Network. The main activity of that network is to plan the full-day fall professional development for faculty members who are the ESL teachers, of which we have 2, art and music, PE health, and media technology. Every single one of our 18 staff members in those areas, K to 12 in some cases, attended these regional professional development days. And as you see, the offerings are quite diversified. When you add up the number of participants from the different districts, there were over 2,000 staff members who were part of these regional trainings. And this is the third year in a row our teachers have been able to go into this, and we would not be able alone to offer this type of training for departments that represent 2, 3, 4 teachers maximum. But when they come together with over 200, 300 people who teach the same subject or represent the same academic area, it's quite an impressive opportunity. So those were the 3 options available. There was choice within each option. And we emphasize more qualitative feedback within the curriculum councils. We ask open-ended questions and set aside time within the curriculum council meetings and administrative council for feedback and guidance on what were the positive aspects and negative aspects. And finally, I do want to say that even though the cross-district PD emphasized technology, but the PD that we offered here within the district for pre-K to 8 could not have been successful in terms of the foundational planning, the registration of faculty, without the involvement and the help and the guidance of our tech coordinators, Natalie Branch and Julie Lloyd. So I want to thank them as well, because there's an integral tech component to planning these large days. And then finally, we do want to have like a conference atmosphere, and so at the superintendent's guidance, we've always followed his advice to, we do offer a lunch for staff here, and Mr. Overcash provided a very nice setting. And it's also, it's respectful of their professionalism, but it's also efficient because, we want to make sure people stay on campus and focused for a full day and are not going in and out, driving in and out on campus and wasting time that way. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
No, it sounds like it was very successful. And so, yeah, I look forward to, any other information, when you get feedback, that'd be great to know too.
Yep.
No questions, thank you. Really appreciate the insights in terms of how we're using the professional development days. It's very useful.
Sounds great, thanks.
Yeah. Congratulations. I love the inter-district collaboration. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, the germination of that idea came from Dr. Clinchie and
I appreciate the comments you made about how, not only was it just going through the particular professional development topics, but the striving to make it a professional day and treating it like that. I think you're right. I think it has a big impact on the staff and helps them buy into what's going on. And I appreciate the staff wanting to participate in this and taking advantage of it and getting after it, so to speak. We do this on that Tuesday that's typically an election day. It wasn't an election day in Littleton. There were no elections, no local or statewide, that affected Littleton's districts. So we didn't actually have that going on, but I still think it's a terrific opportunity for us to do it in a different way that, and you guys take full advantage of that and make it as meaningful as possible.
And there's
So-
wide participation. I mean,
Yeah.
we have very low absenteeism. People traveled. They're just happy. There's no pushback. They're just happy to travel because they find these things interesting.
Yeah.
We do have to think, you can have a set of offerings that are interested, but it's only beneficial when the participants are active
Yeah.
participants. And both speakers went up to the superintendent and myself and talked about how, they've been in our district for 3 years. And both of the Teachers 21 consultants lauded our staff for their energy and commitment.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we have one more presentation, the Mount Monadnock field trip. Ms. Abbott and some students. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Abbott, and I teach English Language Arts to the 8th graders over at the middle school. This year I'm also the 8th grade team leader, and as the team leader, part of my job is to plan the field trips when the 8th graders go out all together. Annually, at least for the last 3 years I've been there, but I think for much longer than that, maybe at least 5 years, the 8th grade class has been going out at the beginning of the year and going on a field trip to climb Pac Monadnock. Pac Monadnock is one of the foothills to the larger Mount Monadnock. And so I had to put it to the school committee. This is a trip that occurs in Peterborough, New Hampshire, and so because it's out of state, we have to get formal approval from all of you. And so we did that, and when we got your approval, you asked if I could come back with a couple of students with some feedback on their experiences from the trip. So I have brought a couple of Littleton's finest here tonight. This is Emma Fryer, and this is Kasha Kalukula. And they both had similar experiences, yet different, because they went up 2 different trails. There are 2 separate trails you can choose to go up. There's the blue trail and the yellow trail. The blue trail is considered to be the less challenging of the 2 trails. That's the trail I went up. But there's also the yellow trail, which is the more challenging. The blue trail, I think, Emma came up the blue trail with me. It is, even though it's considered the less challenging, it's still quite a hike. So Kashyap went up the yellow trail, so even though they went on the same trip, they had different experiences. So I thought it would be good to have 2 kids who went up 2 different trails. So I guess Emma will speak first and just read to you some of what her experiences were from that day. Emma Fryer.
Hi. So I went up the blue trail, which is a little easier than yellow, as Mrs. Abbott said. I hiked with Mrs. Abbott and Mrs. Finnerty. And Mrs. Finnerty taught us a lot about the types of plants and how to identify them on the scientific sides of the trip. And I love that I got to interact with my teachers outside of school and kind of see them in a non-teacher environment. And I also got to learn a little bit more about their lives and all that stuff. When I got to the top, the view was like amazing. You could see so much, and it honestly felt you were like on top of the world. There was also a little souvenir shop where you could buy magnets, stickers, water bottles, and a lot more. And then when it was time to go down, I went with Mrs. Goff, and we talked a lot about my birthplace, England, and about my adoption. And so I kind of got to like open up to a teacher, which felt great. My favorite part about the whole trip was learning more about my teachers and seeing them talk in a non-teacher kind of way.
Thank you, Emma.
Awesome.
And this is Kasha.
Hi, I'm Kasha, and today I will be sharing my experiences on Pac Monadnock. While ascending, I went with Cameron McLeod, Jonathan McGurn, Daniel Glorioso, Mikey Taylor, Alex Johnson, Aiden Donovan, Matt Pace, Faith Mahegan, Gianna Biagioni, and Michael St. Germain. I chose the yellow/hard trail, and the weather was nice and sunny, and there was no rain until later that afternoon. It was fun at first. Cam, Michael, and Faith sang songs enthusiastically. I, on the other hand, enjoyed their presence and talked to Jonathan about math. If you're wondering about everyone else that was with us, they just went with the flow. I brought a water bottle to perform an experiment on air pressure and to keep myself hydrated. I also packed a lunch, binoculars, and a phone to take pictures. The walk up was unquestionably strenuous, and the rocks that we were climbing were extremely steep. Jonathan took a different route and almost fell off the rocks. When we arrived at the top, we were completely exhausted. We all reinvigorated ourselves by eating lunch silently. The view from the top of the mountain was so captivating that we all took out our phones. A while later, the nurse took a photo of the whole 8th grade and we started to descend. It started to downpour on everyone, so I went with Enzo Schcmte and our math teacher, Ms. Mannheimer. We talked about math, and later on, our math teacher fell behind with another group. Enzo and I walked on until we met open space. Finally, said Enzo, we're free. We got to the buses and I left. I had a pretty good time, but it was so slippery and strenuous, I figured many people rolled and sprained their ankles. I almost did too. Hence, it was a pretty good day to get some exercise and to bond with my best friends. Thank you for inviting us and letting us share experiences. It's an honor and a privilege to present in front of you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think what the kids said is one of the most important parts of the trip. It happens early on in the year, and it's a great way for us to bond with the kids and get to know them outside of school. We get outside, we see nature, and we go on the Friday before Columbus Day weekend, so the foliage is beautiful. And even the times when it rains, it's still just beautiful to be out there, and it really was a nice trip. It always is every year. So, any questions about the trip?
Is there any questions or comments?
No questions, just thank you guys for coming out on a not a school night actually tonight.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Didn't they do a great job?
Yeah.
Super impressive, very bright.
I have a question. So Kasha, did the groups go about the same time, leaving for the blue and the yellow trail?
Yeah.
How much longer did it take you guys to get up the yellow trail versus the blue trail?
It took our group was the last group to get up there, and we were like second to last, and it was pretty long.
Like 15 minutes or half an hour?
An hour.
It's an hour hike. It's a big
So
hike.
what was the difference between when you got there? Like, how long had been the blue trail people
The
that were
yellow
waiting for you
trail,
guys?
it took more longer, so I would say around half an hour to an
Okay.
hour. But then when we were going down, we went on the blue trail, which is the easy trail, and it
Okay.
was, anyways, it was still raining, so it was more like slippery and
Gotcha.
it was harder.
All right, good, awesome. All right, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you very
for
much.
organizing the trip.
That was great.
All right, we're done with all the fun parts. Now we can talk
Now,
about
new
money.
business.
All right, so we're going to talk about the draft plan for capital spending in FY 2019. That's the next fiscal year. Steve, Mark.
Yep, so you have copies in your packet, there's a copy on the screen. I do apologize, there's a typo in it, I will fix that. And I also just noticed that I had something listed twice, and I will make that adjustment before we submit anything to the town as well. The thing I have on there twice is replacement and repair of the window shades. I have it both under the PMBC and the school department request. We will leave that under the PMBC request because it was already on their list. And I just forgot to take it off the school department, so I apologize for that mistake. So, other than that, this is with input from the principals as well as our facility manager, as well as our custodians. We did review to some extent the facility study as well, and tried to look and see if there was anything on that we thought was important to include. So it's information from a bunch of different sources. The superintendent and I have sat down and reviewed it as well, and we've shared this document with the principals as well as school committee via a Google Doc as well. So we did prioritize the school department requests. They're in priority order on this list. I'd be happy to answer specific questions about specific projects or try to explain what the requests are for at the pleasure of the school committee.
And these were just suggested priorities so that you had an idea of what we were thinking about, so.
Right, that clearly could change as we get more information from the town side on what we think the amount of money we're going to have available to spend on capital. Obviously, it's our determination once we know roughly what the town thinks that they can allocate towards the schools for capital, then it's our determination about how we want to prioritize the things that are on this list.
Correct, and I did leave, for your information as well, the request from for this year, so FY18 requests are on there, so you can see the comparison. So for FY18, for instance, the schools were approved a little over $317,000 in capital money compared to what we're asking, the 427 less. I'll have to adjust the $16,000 off. What was that number? The $30,000 off, $16,000 off. So just so you had a little bit of history, and I also tried to put a little blurb in there, explanation about where the projects are that we're doing this year. Most of them are underway, some of them we're still evaluating. So that information is there as well.
Questions or comments? Ken? Anyone?
Just a couple here. So the parking lot light control piece there, we have that listed under the school piece. Should that be part of the school, or should that be part of the PMBC request there in terms of, like, what is that? And
Yeah, so that is, so there is a controller at the high school buried deep within one of the facilities closets. It's actually a circuit board that controls the timing of the outdoor lights, so we can control it with a computer. It has two circuits on it, one primary circuit, one is a backup circuit. The primary circuit failed, we're on that backup circuit, so if that system fails, we would lose the ability to control the parking lot lights with a computer, so.
So that follows tied, by saying parking lot, ties it right into my next piece there, is there was some work last year about getting some kind of energy grant for LED lighting. Is
Yeah.
it possible to include the control system as part of that upgrade process? Because it sounds like, anyway, I'm just
We
wondering,
can
you know, where we
ask
ought to
the-
try to get that allocated there. And part of it was just so I understood what the request was. But I just throw that out as a suggestion, not direction at this point there.
Yeah,
So we would welcome the opportunity for you to have that included on the PMBC list.
Well, I'm just wondering about if we're going through a part about energy upgrades and energy management, whether it makes sense for an updated controller to go with that.
But why don't we do this? Why don't, obviously, you're gonna have a discussion with PMBC
Yeah.
on this list, so why don't you guys think
Yeah.
about it? And if you guys make a determination that it might be better off there, then come back and tell us.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna argue with you.
Yeah, no, I'm mainly tying it into, you know,
Right.
because certain things are going under grants,
Right.
and the other pieces there, whether these could be incorporated into that part of those broader projects.
Yeah, if we could maybe have a conversation offline as well,
Yeah.
too. I'd be more than glad to have that with you.
Yeah, no problem. I think we might need to put a placeholder, probably in a couple out years here for high school roof replacement.
Okay.
You know, I think we need to make sure we get that flagged on the, you know, because I know we're having a current assessment done relative to the repairs that were done and whether the scope of what future work is going to be needed there. But I think we ought to start warning the town there may be a complete school, you know, school roof replacement in the future.
Okay.
Probably not too far future.
What's that roof at right now? How many years have we had that building?
17.
17.
What do we typically think, 20 years for a replacement roof like
Typically.
that? So we're getting near there anyway.
Yeah, that's what I
regardless of
mean.
the fact that we've been up there.
Right. I'm just
We'll be up there
putting in
anyway.
terms of helping the
Right.
town plan for
Yeah, you're right.
larger purchases
Yep.
there. And then my last one, again, the AED units, there, obviously ours must be getting to a replacement point there. Is that something that should be coordinated with anything townwide? I don't know if the town's got more. Are we the only, we're not the only department purchasing AED units
No, we're not.
there. And then obviously, is there any grant options available in that space? Just something for us to
I can check with the fire department and the fire chief on that. We did talk about these four,
Mhm.
and so two of them are replacement for ones that have reached end of life, and
Right.
two of them are brand-new requests for locations at the high
Yep.
school and the track. So, and we're trying to coordinate that with the fire department.
Great. That's all I have.
I just had a question about the snow removal truck. We used to have one, right? Wasn't it
We
a couple
have
years
one.
ago? Oh, we have one now then.
We have one now. It's, I forgot the year. We bought it used 5 or 6 years ago with 70 or 80,000 miles on it. It's starting to show its age, it's rusting out and deteriorating. The snowplow itself frame has some holes in it. We're worried about the integrity. If we plow, it could snap off. We're not sure. We've had the highway department, Jimmy Clyde, look at it as well and assess it. So it's time. I think it's a 2003 truck or something like that.
plow for?
We do during snowstorms, our facility guy, Bill, will keep the driveways open to the schools.
Okay.
And keep some access until the highway department actually gets up there with his big equipment. And they do some of the sidewalks with it cautiously at this point in time because.
But it's not the
sidewalk.
sole, I just want to make sure the highway department is still.
The highway department still come and does their parking lots and the heavy snow removal. We use the truck for the smaller areas that the big trucks can't get in.
I think it's important to understand that when it snows significantly especially, the Littleton custodial staff marshals their energy and they're here. Regardless of when the snowstorm is, they will be here any hour of the day, with the goal being to prepare the buildings to be open for business. If that means they're here at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna be here. If that means they stay till 10, 11 o'clock or midnight, they do it. And they clear the sidewalks and other access areas with a combination of shovels, snow blowers, and the truck. They use the truck where they can. Obviously, it's very efficient to use the truck when possible. Steve's right, they gotta be careful. There's certain spots where it'll be damaging and not worth it to do it, but the amount of effort that they expend, if we need to be able to support them in that. If we don't keep the truck available, then it's just gonna mean that much more manual labor, so to speak, to get it done, because it has to get done. And in terms of Bill keeping the driveway accessible, like one lane at a time, or one lane until the highway department can get over there, that helps the highway department a lot in terms of being able to, prioritize where they need to be at a given point relative to keeping, the town ready to rock and roll. So it's a big ticket item. Steve's right, they've done a good job of using an existing piece of equipment and exhausting it before they've asked, but I think we need to keep in mind that it's not just the school department that's gonna benefit by virtue of funding this and getting it done, whether it's now or gutsing it out for a little while longer, but there's a benefit to the highway department to having this happen.
Right, we also use the truck, obviously, we move equipment around with the truck, we move snow blowers around if we need to, we move bags of salt back and forth from the school, so it's used all year round, so.
Ready for that? You good? Matt, I'm good. Yeah, Matt and I saw this at Budget Subcommittee, so.
I have one.
Yep.
Excuse me. Playgrounds. So I see we had in the past included mulch. One of the, I guess it's sort of, maybe it's just a pet request right now, is I'd like to make sure that we look at redoing the Russell Street playground there. And I think we casually talked about whether there was Tiger Fund monies available to do that. It wouldn't necessarily fall under capital, but it would be a fairly significant piece that we would be undertaking.
Yeah. We've had conversations internally, excuse me, about that, and the first thing we really need to do, and Steve and I have had that conversation, is get somebody in here to design a plan for us with that space, and from there we can decide how we're going to accomplish what we need to. So
while it won't show up on the capital plan, it is a fairly capital significant.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize there may be an opportunity to take advantage of the Tigers Den revolving fund, which has a significant amount of money in it, but it may not be sufficient, or may not be, even if it is sufficient, appropriate, or, but it could be a combination of those funds and some other capital type funds, whether it's as part of this process or, we can talk to it, but let's get that process.
I wanted to just catch it on the planning process,
Right.
because,
So we did start that process.
Okay, good.
We did have a playground safety consultant come in to review both Shaker Lane and Russell Street, just as a starting point to find out what kind of major items we had. I just got that report a couple of days ago. I haven't really digested the whole thing. We'll look at that and see if there's anything major we need to take care of first, and then we can talk about redesign the Russell Street playground. We just haven't quite got there yet.
And then just so that we our discussion focused on all of the non-educational items here. I did notice that in terms of still forward projecting about the same amount, $100,000 investment in textbooks and training materials, consistent with what we've been doing. That, and you're comfortable that is sufficient for our needs for the next year?
Excuse me, it is. The only unknown, and Jerry Lynn and I have had conversations, I'm sure we can make it work, is if we're successful in adding some type of computer science programming. We're going to need some resources, so we figure we can do it with that amount. What we really wanted to do, and when we come to items that are in a cyclical fashion, is try to have the same amount of money every year. That way we know what we need, and we create a plan, a strategic plan around curriculum acquisition, resource acquisition, knowing that's the base amount that we have. And so we're running that 5-year review cycle, and that amount is sufficient to continue on.
Good. You good?
Yep.
I think it's important to understand that this is a first stab at the capital planning. It's a request. It's somewhat prioritized, but it can certainly change. When Matt and I reviewed it at Budget Subcommittee last week, we made sure that the numbers were in line with what we've asked for in the past, both in terms of total amount of ask and the types of ask, balancing, PMBC directed capital planning versus what we would direct ourselves, and, things that are physical plant type things versus curriculum materials or resources and things like that. So this plan is definitely consistent and in line with what we've been doing in past years in all those regards. Having said that, it's fluid, and a lot will happen between this kind of kickoff point, jumping off point, and actually coming to town meeting with a finalized request, along with all the other capital requirements that the town will evaluate outside the schools department.
Yeah, and I know I've been pushing this format for a couple of years now, and I really appreciate it this way, because it really helps it make it very clear what ones we need for our education program and which ones we need to, in terms of keeping the whole infrastructure of the school system up. And it becomes a very crisp, black and white trade-off if that money's not available.
Right.
What's gonna have to fall off the list. There.
Good. All right, and next.
So, I'm sorry, so I'll make the couple of adjustments,
Yeah.
and then I'd like to release that preliminary request back to the town.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right. and-
Darryl, when you're talking to the PMBC, if you could maybe have them look at lifespan of the Schcmte boilers, that would be something to take a look at as well. I'm not sure how old they are, but they are costly, and they probably need to be on our radar.
Right.
All right, and then sticking with the budget, the FY18 is current fiscal year cost center update we have in the packet.
Yep, so there's updates in your packet and available online. I actually included two different reports. One is the first quarter through September, just so you could see what it is per quarter. And then I also included year-to-date up to October as well, just so you can see that difference. We're a little early in the year to start talking about problem areas. We're good at this point in time. So I will bring regular updates to the school committee, and glad to answer any questions.
Questions on that?
No.
Bill, Jim?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are at the second point in the meeting for input from interested citizens. We have two here, but they're not that interested. Okay.
No, they are
They are
very
interested.
interested. They came to our
Yeah, I
meeting.
can't- we
That's
can't-
right.
Thumbs
Yeah.
up. I should be not. Come here. You guys are our best friends. All right, thank
Just a
you.
peanut gallery.
Open all
All right, subcommittee reports, PMBC.
Unfortunately, I was on travel last week and missed last week's meeting, so I don't have an update on that.
Budget subcommittee, really, the gist of it was what we just went over in terms of the capital planning. That's what we talked about at the last meeting. We did check in with the administration in terms of the operating budget development, and they're moving right along. We should have pretty soon the big drivers, the expected salary projections for existing staff, sped, and any new staffing or programs that we think we want to consider funding, along with just this year a little different, the regular ed transportation contract is up, bids went out, bid requests went out.
The requests went out, the bid opening is November 30th.
Okay. So that'll be happening. in
We
short-
had
short
3
enough
companies
order.
show up for the pre-bid meeting, so that's good. I'm hoping that it increases the competition, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right, policy subcommittee?
Official handoff has occurred. And I will get started soon, so get ready, guys.
Actually, and then I just was catching the news, and for some reason, Lincoln Sudbury made the news because they implemented a no vaping policy at high school, of which we did a year ago, and did not make the news.
That's actually good.
Yeah.
That's, when our policies are that up to date, we don't make any news, that like that.
But I think we're also ahead of where the state's going to be formally cracking that down across the state shortly.
All right, is there any other business for the school committee tonight? No. We will require an executive session. I don't think it'll be a very long one, but we do need it tonight for purpose of contract negotiation.
Motion to adjourn public session into executive session with no intent to return for the purposes of contract negotiation.
No intent to return to open.
No intent to return.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. Matt?
Aye.
Aye. Darrell?
Aye.
Jay? I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone. That's all we did.